What's up guys, I'm back with another video, and today's video we're going to be talking about the next generation Xbox. And so this is a leak, so take this with a grain of salt, but we have supposed leaks of the specs and release date and pricing of the next generation Xbox, as well as the PlayStation 5 too, and other stuff as well. So this comes from a Reddit thread that was posted on the Xbox One subreddit by a user called Nova Monbasa. And so the first thing that he shares in his leak is that Microsoft is looking to acquire a whole bunch of studios, and the studios that they're in current negotiations with are a Solo Studio, IO Interactive, Platinum Games, Turtle Rock Studios, Blue Point Games, Relic Entertainment, and the Farm 51, as well as a few more studios from the UK, France, Germany, Poland, Ukraine, Finland, Canada, Japan, and Korea. He says that Microsoft wants great talents and diversity around the world, and they don't have a target number or anything like that. And so this does line up with what Microsoft has been saying about how they want to expand their studios and their games library. So also one thing I do want to point out is that with this whole thing, I am going to make a separate video dissecting all this information kind of piece by piece and discussing whether or not it's legit. In this video, I just want to go over it and let you guys know straight up. So if you guys want to know the nitty-gritty about it, and with going into the details on the hardware and stuff specifically, you guys can check out the video linked in the video description, where I'll be discussing all the leaked specs and kind of comparing them with current hardware and seeing if this really would be legit or not. So the actual specs for this Xbox and the launch windows for them. So there's going to be two Xboxes according to this leak. One of them is going to be a streaming one, and the other one is going to be a traditional hardware just Xbox that's just fully loaded with the best hardware. The streaming one is codenamed Lockhart, and the more powerful one is codenamed Anaconda. So I mean, these code names are honestly like they're legit. We've known that this is what Microsoft has been calling some of these Xboxes internally. Plus, at E3 2018, Phil Spencer even said that Microsoft's team is hard at work on the next generation Xboxes. So they're working on more Xbox consoles, plural. So it does line up with that factor that we'd be getting multiple Xboxes. So the Lockhart one is going to be starting at $249. It's going to be a streaming one. And it will have a custom 8-core, 16-thread Zen 2 CPU with a GPU is a custom Navi at 4+ teraflops. So that's in the GPU power range of about a PlayStation 4 Pro. It will have a 12GB GDDR6 memory setup, as well as a 1TB NVMe SSD at 1+ gigabytes per second storage, and it will also support DirectX ray tracing and Microsoft AI. So all of that for $249. That would be kind of a crazy thing. Microsoft has also already been testing out kind of their own streaming service with games as well, using the Xbox One S as a base for that streaming service. And these consoles are both supposed to launch in holiday 2020. So by that time, I really could see Microsoft getting all the kinks worked out with this streaming service to make that a viable option. But now let's talk about the actual new Xbox One X, the new Xbox, next generation Xbox, codenamed Anaconda. So this one will be $499. The CPU in it is going to be a custom 8-core 16-thread Zen 2 CPU with a custom Navi GPU at 12+ teraflops. And it will have a 16GB GDDR6 memory setup, as well as a 1TB NVMe SSD at 1+ gigabytes per second for the storage, and it will also have support for DirectX ray tracing and Microsoft AI. The leak goes on to say that both consoles will launch in holiday 2020, and the next Xbox XDK will be starting to roll out in April and May 2019. And both consoles will have heavy customization on CPU and GPU, and will both support ray tracing with DXR. He says that there's a whole bunch of customizations and implementations of it, and we'll start to see these around GDC this year. And it goes on to say that the next Xbox will have backwards compatibility with Xbox One, and it will have as well as backwards compatibility with the 360 and the original Xbox. And this is something that has also been confirmed by Microsoft at this point. Microsoft has said that every future console will support backwards compatibility from all the previous generations, so you'll still be able to play your Xbox One games, Xbox 360 games, and original Xbox games on this new system. He also gives out the leak specs for the PlayStation 5, which will cost $399. It will rock a 8-core 16-thread CPU, which will be Zen 2 based. The GPU will be a custom Navi based GPU at 8+ teraflops, and the memory configuration is going to be a 12GB GDDR6 setup, and the storage is going to be a 1TB SSD. So not even NVMe, just a 1TB SSD. So he says He knows the specs, but he doesn't know if the PlayStation 5 will have ray tracing. I doubt it, because ray tracing currently right now is just set up for NVIDIA and for Microsoft. So it's either RTX or DXR are the only two implementations of ray tracing. AMD could come up with their own method of ray tracing here within the next few years, but we haven't heard anything about it so far, so it's unlikely that this generation, at least for the PlayStation 5, will support ray tracing. He says that the PlayStation 5 was delayed, and the target was holiday 2019, but obviously, since we haven't heard anything at this point, it's most likely not going to happen. He says that it could also be early 2020. I think it's most likely going to line up with the next generation Xbox and be holiday 2020, so almost 2 years off from right now. And then he says that he doesn't know anything about PlayStation 4 backwards compatibility or any of that stuff as well. So now let's talk about the games that are going to be coming out with this next generation Xbox. He says that Halo Infinite is going to be a cross-gen game, so it'll be featured on the Xbox One, and it will also be featured on this next generation console codenamed Scarlet or Anaconda. Next game would be Forza Motorsport, and it's going to be a cross-gen game, and it's going to be the first ray tracing game. They're going to have Age of Empires 4 is going to be cross-gen. Perfect Dark is going to launch exclusively apparently on this next generation platform, as well as Killer Instinct 2, and then Bleeding Edge is going to be a cross-gen game. He says that the first year of this next generation Xbox will be the best lineup of all time, which honestly is kind of a bold statement, because honestly I think that 2007 was one of the best lineups of all time just in gaming history. I mean, not even just for a specific console, but just gaming history, because we had games like Halo 3, Call of Duty 4, and a whole ton of others. You guys can even like look that up and see all these amazing games that were released that year. That was an amazing year for games, but this is going to be apparently the best lineup of all time. It says that some old franchises will return, new IPs from new devs, and exclusive Japanese games, and an exclusive spy game, and a lot more. And then he closes his whole thread just by saying that Microsoft is going to be, dropping a lot of bombs here, and is going to be doing a lot of crazy stuff and acquiring lots of studios and games and stuff, and it's going to be really great. And then just says that, hey, if you don't believe this, then come back in a little while and it's all going to be true. So once again, take this all with a grain of salt. This is just, all kind of conjecture at this point. But like I said, I'll have another video breaking it all down, talking about the specific hardware and these other claims that he's making, whether or not it's true. But regardless if this post is actually true, we do know that the next generation of Xbox is being worked on. Phil Spencer himself has actually confirmed this. He's also confirmed that there's going to be multiple Xboxes that they're working on as well and are going to be releasing. We know that Sony is most likely in the works as well. Sony isn't going to be left behind and have Microsoft just put out a new generation of console without them doing theirs. We even have some developers confirming that they're working on games that aren't even going to be coming out on this generation, but next generation as well. So we know that next generation is somewhat close because studios are already starting to work towards it. Like games like Elder Scrolls 6, I believe, is going to be a next generation only game. And then if you just look at current trends, the original Xbox One and PlayStation 4 released in 2013, the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X released in 2016 and 2017 respectively. So if there is a 3 or 4 year gap in between each system, then it would make sense for them to release in either 2019 or 2020, most likely 2020 since we haven't heard anything about it yet. Plus it also gives it a little bit more time for the systems to mature. And honestly, at this point, both Microsoft and Sony have no real reason to put out a new generation of consoles at this point. Sony is still racking in millions of PlayStation 4 hardware sales like every month, and Microsoft is still racking in millions of sales as well. And so if they put out a new generation, then it kind of cuts off all the sales of the previous generation. So, I mean, this could be a reason why Microsoft is kind of really trying to push this next generation, is to kind of beat Sony to the punch and to cut off their sales of the PlayStation 4 and kind of make them focus more on the PlayStation 5. But time will tell. It was just a leak that was posted on Reddit, and I wanted to make you guys aware of it. But even if this, like I said, isn't true, we at least know that the next generation Xbox is going to be worked on, and it's also pretty close to the time when Microsoft and Sony are going to be sending out dev kits to developers to actually start developing games for these systems. So within the next couple months, we should be able to get more information, if not more official leaks on the hardware behind these new consoles, as well as other news and stuff. So if you guys are really interested in this stuff and you like this video, make sure you give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, ring that notification bell, all that stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.